Hey, this is Tuesday, January 28th. This is my regular class, not the advanced class. Make sure you watch the right video because there's different words that get real confusing, stories and stuff like that. Honor Society-wise, we apparently just got through harassing them, so they tell me what day they're going to turn it in. Some kids have issues, so they had to hush their little mouths. NWEA English is tomorrow. Book report checkpoint coming up. It starts jumping up considerably moving forward. So you have 3 squares this week, then it jumps up 7 squares, and then jumps up even higher. So the idea is do not wait to the very end, like waiting until Monday to turn in your Honor Society application. You want to do it ahead of time and get on top of things. Funny. It wasn't, but thank you. All right. We started getting through... Hi, Jason.
I don't want to sit down. I don't want to stand either. The chairs are so uncomfortable.
You want to hover? I don't So we started getting into this with you guys. I believe. Did we get to the first one with you?
Yes.
Chaos?
No.
Then yay, let's get to it here. We're going to go through and sort of figure out which category it's supposed to go into. You should have all of these written down already. The idea now is you're going to be drawing arrows, putting it into the correct spot. So if you put chaos in the wrong spot, you'll just have to draw an arrow. If you want to rewrite it, you can. That's just a lot of work. All I wanted you to do is draw arrowy thing. Also, again, to remind you, if you have questions, I'll probably ignore you. Not to be mean, but the idea is we'll get to that. I'm going to get to all of these stories eventually. I just can't hit them all the first day. And then try to contain your wanting to yell at them and stuff like that. So now, take a look at your paper. Figure out where you put chaos so we can try to help you. Where's your notebook?
Others. Brain hours.
So go grab it. Oh, I thought I had to be mean to you. Just didn't have it out on that one. But at least you've opened up notebook.
We need to win anyway.
Alright, so chaos. Let's go with...
Are you good there? Are you having a battle?
If you put chaos in gods, raise hand. Places, things, other stuff. I started with the easiest one. Chaos goes in all 4. It is a god, it became a place, it created things, and it's also other stuff. So whichever one you have it in, you're good. Room-wise, I can only put it in 2 because I ran out of room, so you can just roll with me. But whichever one you have it, you're good. Here's why. If you look at a little piece of paper you picked up from my desk, those of you at home, we got a new piece of paper. It looks like this. There's one side that says family tree. If you go to top of family tree, it says chaos. If you go to top of family tree over here, it says chaos. In Greek mythology, they had all of these gods you see up on the walls. What came before these gods were the 2 parent gods, which was Mother Earth and Father Sky. Mother Earth was the actual Earth, like you can jump on her. Father Sky was the sky, the thing that's up there in the clouds. Before Mother Earth and Father Sky came along, there was a being before them, and that being was chaos. But in Greek mythology, chaos was just a swirling ball of nothingness. Wow. It is what existed before anything else existed. It was just a ball, and it swirled, and it was nothing. Here's the problem. It's hard to imagine a ball of nothing. Because whenever you imagine a ball of nothing, you're imagining something. And now you're not imagining nothing. You're like, my brain already hurts. Don't worry. This is the very beginning of Greek mythology. But eventually, to make it easier, imagine a swirling ball of pudding. So you have pudding swirling around. And eventually the pudding got bored. And like a giant amoeba, it split to form the very first 2 beings, which was Earth and Sky. So because it starts off as a swirling ball of pudding, it's other stuff. Because it then splits to form the very first 2 creatures, which is the Earth and Sky, it's also a place. And because Mother Earth eventually creates all of the gods, it's also a god. And then it's a thing because it's a giant swirling ball of pudding. So technically chaos fits into all 4 of them, no matter where you want to put it. Much like me ignoring Jackson because he has to wait till the end of class. And then and Chronos. Take a look at paper. See where you put Chronos. Let's go with God, place, thing, other stuff. Chronos, God.
Yay.
Once again, on fancy looking little paper, he's down there below where you have the Uranus and Gaia. And if you go over to, keep going down, eventually you have the Titans, and he's listed all the way, so in the middle, where it says Cronus. No, Mr. Brovicast, that's spelled differently. Oh, I apologize. He's over here, above where Jackson is. He's the guy who looks like he's wearing a cheerleading skirt while going golfing. That'd be Kronos over there. Also, spelled differently. Greek mythology embraces the idea of oral tradition, the idea of things changing as they get passed down. A lot of the stories changed, but so did the names. Throughout Greek mythology, there'll be different spellings for a lot of these names. For those of you who are not good spellists, you will enjoy Greek mythology, because pretty much however you spell it is the correct way of spelling it. The only way to get it wrong is when you're way off. When we get to like Hephaestus, and you're like, I got it! Zeus. No, that's a completely different god. But as long as you're spelling it somewhat close, then you should be fine. So Cronus, sometimes Chronos, sometimes Cronus, sometimes H's, sometimes K's. As long as it sounds like a K, a R, a O, an us, you're good to go. So that was Cronus. He is going to be one of our first stories we're going to get a chance to get into because he had a really bad habit of eating his children. It's
like
okay. No, I don't eat my children anymore.
I don't eat my children anymore.
It's because it's how he was raised, and his father did the same thing. And it's okay because his children did the same thing. Apparently, the Greek gods really liked eating babies, but it wasn't their fault. They were delicious. So because of that, we all make choices.
So the guy was
Kind of. Next up, go from there to Hades. Figure out where you're putting Hades. Gods.
Yeah.
So what happened? Places, things, other stuff. You have a 50-50 chance because Hades goes in two spots. Hades is both God and place.
I knew it! Should have said place.
So was right all the time.
Could have been.
I
So
should have said...
Hades, both God and place. One, over here, Jackson's in a good spot again today. So above where Jackson is, Hades is that one right there in the picture. He's the one looking
The
all
devil!
dark with the hood.
Mr.
Do you remember last week
The god of the underworld.
when we first started talking about Greek mythology, and I mentioned a lot of you were going to lose points when we got to this one? It was going to require you guys like start talking out loud in those points. No particular reason why I thought to mention that. Just thought I'd, throw it out there to help you. Anyway, so Hades, one there wearing all dark. He's also the one over here looking all grumpy and dark there. For many of you, also, he is a Titan, which seems to throw some people off, but that's the thing we're going to get to in a second. If you're familiar with Greek mythology from TV shows, movies, books, and stuff like that, usually they portray Hades as being evil, or mean, or the bad guy, or the villain. If you're familiar with either Hercules, the cartoon, the Disney one, the blue hair guy, and oftentimes in the Percy Jackson, when he gets the chance to meet him there, he's like all grumpy and trying to steal Zeus' stuff. In actual Greek mythology, that's not how Hades was. Hades was never mean or evil. Hades was antisocial. He was the grumpy kid who just didn't want to be talked to. He was the one that would sit in the back of the classroom, wear all black, paint his fingernails black, listen to nonstop My Chemical Romance, and then yell at you whenever you tried to come talk to him. That's who Hades was. The only time that he was mean was when people kept talking to him. Yes, I've heard both emo and I've heard goth, but something along those lines. He was just antisocial and didn't like other humans or other gods. But oftentimes, much like the kid that you keep bothering, like, why are you wearing black? Why do you have your fingernails like that? Why is your hair like that? Why are you yelling at me? Because the same thing happened with Hades. When you kept poking him, eventually he would lash out. And they're like, oh, you're a mean god. No. He just wanted you to leave him alone. So that's Hades. He was a Titan. All of these pictures that you see, any picture is a Titan. Titan just means really big person who lives forever and can crush you whenever they want. So Titan, 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 Titan. Two of them over there are half Titans, but we'll get to that story when we get to them. But almost all of them are Titans or connected to Titans in some way. So that's Hades. Underworld next? Underworld. Figure out where you want to put Underworld. And gods, places, things, others. Aren't you guys all special?
The basement.
It goes in a place.
Yay.
In Greek mythology, underworld was the nickname for Hades, the location. Because it turns out that Hades was not very creative. And when he finally did get his own kingdom, then the other gods would come up to him and they're like, hey, congratulations, you got your own kingdom. So what are you going to call the place? And he's like, Hades. I'm like, no, that's your name. What are you going to call the place where you're living right now? He's like, Hades. I'm like, I don't think you understand how this works. What are you, Hades? Like, okay, we're just going to call it Hades. And so they just like left him alone, like, Hades, good name for it. And so he just left the name as Hades, and he called the place where he lived Hades, because he was not creative. His full name in Greek mythology was actually Hades. The H stood for Hades. And so he lived on Hades Lane in Hades, Illinois. It was a great place. And so that sort of gives you an idea of who Hades was. But the Greeks also believe, there's a game you can play as a kid, Bloody Mary, where you go into a bathroom and you turn off the lights and you spin around 3 times, like, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. And then you look in the mirror and she's like, rah! And she comes out at you and you scare each other. Great game. The Greeks believed the same thing, but with gods. Not that you would go and look into a mirror, but the idea that if you said their name, they would appear. And it was thought if you said a god's name, you were summoning them. And there is every chance they would appear in front of you. Some gods were friendly and outgoing, like Zeus. If you said Zeus, he might walk in there and be like, I'm Zeus, woo, and have a party with you. But Hades was not that way, antisocial. So if you said Hades' name and he appeared in front of you, oftentimes it was thought he would take you back down to his place with him. So if he showed up and he was like, you said my name, and you're like, I know, I was just talking about the, and he was like, time for a trip. He take you back down. So not out of meanness, but because of antisocial, he was like, well, you talk to me, now you get to talk to me forever. And so that's what so humans were afraid to say the name of the place where he lived. So on the off chance, let's say someone keeps sassing me in class and I have to go off on them and break them over my knee. And they're like, hush your little and they're dead. And all of a sudden we miss them. What happened to Kaylee? We're like, well, now she's down in Hades. You'd be like, oh, Kaylee? Yeah, she's down in Hades. And you'd look over and the god would appear. And you're like, I made a poor choice. So because of that, they would come up with a nickname for it. But it turns out humans were not very creative either. Because they're like, well, what are we going to call the place where he lives? And the other person was like, well, I don't know. Where is it? And someone was like, well, it's under the world. They're like, nailed it. They're like, what? And they're like, under the world. They're like, that's too long. Underworld. They're like, done! And they just called that one. So eventually they just called Hades Underworld because that's exactly where it was located. Next up. We'll miss you. Titans! Okay, let's go to that one. Figure out where you put Titans. And we have gods, places, things, other stuff. Titans is a god. Yep. They're actually the same thing. They are synonyms. A god is a titan. A titan is a god.
Like Thanos.
Something. Yeah, actually, yeah. He was called
I am inevitable.
The thing is, Thanos
in Greek mythology, the Titans and gods are the same names for the same thing. It's like talking to someone and going, are you a person or are you a human? And they're like, oh, I don't know. That's so tough. It's the same thing. If you're a person, you are a human. Just like if you were a god, you're a titan. And if you were a titan, you were a god. So all the ones you see around here, they were gods, and they were also titans. That's the exact. Which gets confusing, because we're going to have a fight coming up called the Olympians versus the Titans. You're like, but I thought they all were Titans. They are. Then how? That my brain. It's like saying that, let's say the heroes team rallied together to fight the rest of the school, and we're like, we're going to take them all! And so that big battle at our school became known as the heroes versus the 7th grade. It's the same idea. We're still 7th graders. We're just specific 7th graders that know we're better than the others. Same thing with the Olympians. They were all titans. They were just titans who knew they were better than the others. What's up, Giraffe? It happens sometimes. Maybe this will help. Mercurial. Let's take a look at the next one. So figure out where you put Mercurial. It helps me.
Sorry.
And gods, places, things, other stuff. And didn't vote because your hand is too heavy. And I'm sorry, mercurial goes into other stuff. Here's how mercurial works. If you were to look at a little piece of paper here, and you go down Olympian list, you're going to find a guy by the name of Hermes, Hermes. He is the guy over here doing the Heisman Trophy pose. That's Hermes right there. Next to his name on the paper, you're going to see parentheses where it says Mercury. That is his Roman name. In Greek mythology, there were two different languages, depending on which culture you were a part of. There were the Greeks, and then there were the Romans. They both prayed to and studied the same gods. They just spoke different languages. Just like we have English and we have Spanish. You can use the word year, or you can say año, or you can say hello, or you can say hola. It's the same thing. Two languages, same idea. Same thing here with Greek and Romans. They're the same gods, just different names. Mercurial comes from his Roman name, which is Mercury. And Hermes, Heisman Trophy guy, was very fat. He was the god of speed, running really quickly, which is why he's wearing like the track shoes and wearing the track helmet, because he was really fast at running. Tomorrow, remind me, we're going to talk about mercurial, because it applies to science and fun stuff.